This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeff Gardner.
Welcome to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have another good neighbor on, Ayden Woolsey of Our City Financial Group. Ayden, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We were talking about in the pre-show that one of our favorites, Jack over at Donaldson Capital, nominated you to come on the show. I've grown very fond of that young man very quickly. So his recommendations hold a lot of weight. And I love learning about your style of business. I know very little about it. And I think it's can be very empowering for us human beings to understand money a little bit better and know a little bit more about what you do. So without spoiling anything, let's get right into it. What is it that you do, Ayden?
Yeah, so I help individuals, families, and businesses with their financial protection. And some people may not know, what does financial protection mean? Specifically, we help people with life insurance, critical illness insurance, long-term disability insurance, and group benefits for businesses. Basically, just making sure that people are prepared for the unexpected events that happen throughout life. And that's really, really our main goal of making sure people are taken care of in that regard with their life.
Yeah, and I think it's so valuable now that I know more about it, but I was a late bloomer, so I'm not going to answer this. I'd rather just ask the question from your point of view. These, like our car insurance is mandatory. We don't have a choice. I think if most people had the choice to just have their costs for their car, financing or leasing, and then have the choice to get insurance, I think we'd have a lot of drivers without insurance. But it's mandatory. But it's not mandatory for me to get life insurance or to have business insurance. Why do it?
Well, I think because if you have a family, whether that's, it's just you and your wife, you and your girlfriend, or maybe you have children, you got to kind of ask yourself, like, what happens if I don't make it home one night? I'm driving home from work. I get in a bad car accident on the 400 or whatever highway you drive during work times or leaving work. And what happens if you don't come home and you now don't have an income, or your family doesn't have an income anymore coming into the household? That makes a huge effect on your family's lifestyle, whether it's paying off the mortgage, other debts you have, and even just the income replacement for your family, because obviously that money would no longer be coming into the household. So I think that's the main purpose when it comes to life insurance. For other people like myself, I don't have a wife or any kids yet, but I bought life insurance for myself because I know if something did happen to me, my parents would just be devastated and they wouldn't be able to work for probably months to a year, and it'd be very tough on them. I'm young, so I can be able to get into it quite at a affordable rate. So that's why I specifically have got it for myself, but also it completely depends on someone's circumstances, whether they have a family or not, and what their goals are in the event of them passing away.
So key. So, insurance seems very clear to me that it's not only thinking of my own circumstances, but thinking of the ripple effect of this high risk, rare. These scenarios are rare, but they happen. And, they happen every day on a grand scale. Car accidents, these things happen. So not only am I mitigating risk for myself by having some types of insurance, but I'm also mitigating the downfall of my loved ones, which is something that I didn't consider originally. When I first bought life insurance, I still had debt to my parents when I was much younger. And that conversation wasn't even a thing until it was a thing. Hey, if you pass, that debt will be on them. And so at 23, it was like, okay, now I'm going to get life insurance. It wasn't even something I considered before. And I think, at least from my experience in my world, I'm not speaking for everybody, absolutely not, just from my experience, but that's a lot of people. They think of life insurance down the line. I'm 37 now. I learned that lesson at 23, so I've had life insurance for that amount of time. But a lot of us don't consider it. And I think there's a very valid reason to consider it early especially with the circumstances that you discussed. Now, can you remind me again, outside of life insurance, what other types of insurance is there that you offer?
Yeah. So I do critical illness insurance and then long-term disability and group benefits insurance as well.
Okay. So what is
Yeah.
group benefits? That's something I'm not too familiar with.
So it's a fancy word for employee benefits.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
typically with employee benefits, and it completely depends on the business and what they want to offer to their employees. But for like a full package plan, it'd be like life insurance, critical illness insurance, some sort of maybe long term or short term disability, and then have some sort of plan when it comes to dental, physiotherapy, massages, whatever it kind of comes to in that regards. And it's different for any sort of business. It really depends on how the business owner wants to put together the plan.
Yeah. So it can be tailored to their circumstances, to their needs
Yeah,
and wants. Perfect.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if I'm understanding it correctly, insurance is protection.
Yes.
You're paying for peace of mind to know that if the worst case happens, you're covered.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
again, when I was younger, God, I used to bitch about car insurance, man, because I was a young
Yeah.
guy, I had a fast car, and I thought they had it out for me. My car wasn't even that much money, but the insurance was like $450 when I'm, 19, got no money. And that just seemed outrageous to me. And then I got in a car accident. And now I'm like, oh, that's why I have insurance. I
Yeah.
have another car again now because I had insurance, rather than no insurance would have been car gone and I would have been screwed. Not to mention, the other person that hit me as well. So I needed, sometimes we need to go through these painful experiences to learn these things. I hope that in a part of the show, people can avoid some of these pitfalls. Luckily, I had insurance because car insurance was mandatory, but I probably would have been one of those guys at 19 when I didn't have a pot to piss in. I wouldn't have spent 450 on insurance if I didn't
Yeah.
absolutely have to by law. But then I got in that car accident and I walked away with everything taken care of. There's a little bit of physio involved, but another car came my way because of that insurance. So the worst case did happen and I was covered. And so now my mindset on insurance from then is very different. But I appreciate you clarifying that for us. Something that we're really curious about on the show, as we were talking about in the pre-show, yes, this is a show about entrepreneurs. This is a show about community, but in a big way, it's a show about our human experience, really, of the people that live in our area, so we can get to know them more. And human potential is one of my main studies. The more I study about what we're capable of, the more I find out what I'm capable of, and the more I resonate with people that really strive to find out what they're capable of. And through that, there's that storytelling, like, why do we do the things we do? What brought us to this point in our life? So we love to ask the guests on the show, like, what brought you to our City Financial Group and becoming your own business? Like, that's not an easy thing to do. What brought you to this world, man?
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur since about 15 years old, and I actually had
I
a
love it.
I had a clothing brand called Our City Clothing, which was pretty big actually in Ontario, and I ran that for about 4 or 5 years, and then unfortunately through COVID, it just finances didn't work out. I tried my best to just keep the brand pushing, and it just didn't end up working out. And then I've always been that type of person that I just like people. I found that I've been a good person in different ways of always being that helping hand and always just caring for people and just sitting down with people and just sometimes just having a conversation and talking. So I find that I am a people person and a person who does enjoy helping people. And then that's when I saw the opportunity of getting into the life insurance industry. I didn't know much about it. I knew that there was people who did well at it and were able to help a lot of people, uh, help a lot of people and be able to do very well as a living at the same time. So that's really what intrigued me to get into it. And I've been into it now just over about a year and a half.
Beautiful. So is our
Yeah.
City Financial Group your business, or are you like an agent similar to a mortgage broker or a real estate agent underneath our City Financial Group?
No, so our City Finance Group, I am the owner of it. Right now, I am just a one-person show. I
Mhm.
have people kind of connected to me through my MGA that have helped me with like different tax information and things like that when it comes to specific clients and how we set up their policies. And
Mhm.
then as well as I have some new business assistants as well. So whenever I have some sort of communication, excuse me, that I need to go to the insurance company for, they basically help me with that and be able to get that information from the insurance company and basically loop it back to me.
Yeah, so you got your great network team of people that help you move the needle in your business, provide more value essentially.
Exactly.
Beautiful, man. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I remember my first year, although it's not your first year as an entrepreneur. I love that you've been doing it since you're 15. Such a great story, man. Just a natural entrepreneur at 15. I didn't know anything. Certainly wasn't running my own business, but I remember my first couple of years. I don't know. I think I romanticized them because they're hard as F those first couple of years for me. But when I look back on it, I was like, oh yeah, the glory days. I don't think yeah, I think I'm romanticizing it a little bit. I don't know. There's something about putting out like you're almost literal. For me, it was fitness, running my own gym, like literal blood, sweat, and tears. You know, that you sleep there sometimes middle of the day. I know there's just something about working so hard to build something that you could be proud about at the beginning when I knew nothing. Now we have teams of people, we have big staff. It's great. It's much better on my stress. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's a much higher quality of life, but there is something about those first couple of years that I don't know is nostalgic. But to pivot a little bit, I've mentioned a couple of times the education factor. There's a lot of information out there today, man. I mean, a lot. And some of it is dog shit. I mean, really, some of it is not good. So, you go back 100 years ago and just to find information was difficult. Now we don't have that problem. The information is bombarding us every day. So I think one of the things that is up to us to really consider is what information am I allowing into my life and is it of value? And we want to be a part of that wave of valuable information. Podcasts are a great platform to find out about quality education. If we can provide information that leads to somebody making a higher quality decision, you could argue that we've helped them change their behavior. And if you can argue that, then you could argue that we've helped them change their life, right? If somebody makes a financial move from or protection, life insurance, or whatever it is, from the information on the show, and it helps them in a big way, that's very important to us. And you were talking about helping people just a minute ago, so I imagine it's very important to you as well. So one of those questions regarding education is our myths and misconceptions. Every industry we've come across, there's always been myths, there's always been misconceptions, suboptimal information out there. So is there any myths or misconceptions about the insurance world, because it's not just life insurance that you provide, that you could clarify for us so people have a better understanding?
Yeah. I think 100% the biggest misconception that people have is that life insurance or critical illness, long term disability, group benefits is expensive. They look at like car insurance and home insurance and they're like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy, which is understandable. It's not cheap. Uh, Car insurance is definitely not cheap at all. But that's the thing that I feel like is the biggest misconception when it comes to life insurance and all the life and health insurance that you can be able to acquire. It's actually very affordable, especially if you can be able to sit down with someone like who's a broker and be able to ideally plan out what your actual needs are and be able to basically cater around that, be able to have that conversation with the broker and be able to figure out how much you need, how long do you need it, and be able to work around your budget in that standpoint. Because there's a lot of people who, if you're a healthy individual and you're quite young, you could be able to get, 500,000, $1 million of life insurance for typically under $100 a month. Like it
That's what
depends
I'm
again,
spending.
yeah, completely depends on your age and hopefully if you're healthy, you're not a smoker or smoker. There's a couple different things where that price varies. but you can be able to get yourself into a policy, typically like anywhere from, again, depending on age and health, but $25 to $100 a month to be able to make sure your family's taken care of, or yourself when it comes to the other health insurances as well.
Which is huge. And is
Yeah.
there any validity to this? Maybe this is a myth in my head. This is why we asked this question. In my head, I believe it's true or somewhat accurate that the earlier you get life insurance, the healthier you are, the younger you are, the less risk you are walking around with compared to an 80-year-old, the cheaper it is. And doesn't that just make it cheaper overall, or does it continually get, what's the best way to ask this question? The earlier I get life insurance, will it cost me less down the line because I'm healthier and younger?
Yes. So what will happen is that it depends on your policy, but yes, the younger you are, that's how basically the insurance company bases your premium. Your age, smoking status, and your health. Those are basically the main three things that they base it off of. And gender as well, that's important. And from there, really the younger you are, and again, it depends on the type of policy you get yourself into, but yes, the younger you are, it's going to be less expensive. And then again, depending on the policy, whether you're doing a term 10, 20, 25, 30, etc., or you're doing a permanent policy, it's going to save you a significant amount of money, compared to, let's say you get it at 25 years old compared to 35 or 40.
Yeah. And I mean, is there also the point that if I decide to get help, a lot of times as humans do things, what's the word? Kind of after the fact. Like, I'm healthy
100%.
now. Why would I get
Yeah.
health insurance? Is, I guess, a logical question, maybe a typical question. Why would I get it now? And then something happens to me that's significant, health wise or whatever. And it's like, okay, now I need to get insurance. It's going to be way more expensive. So if I get it preemptively, is that a better strategy than waiting till after the fact?
Oh, 100%. Because the problem is, if something happens to you in regards to a critical illness, whether that's cancer, heart attack, stroke, most insurance companies won't even insure you. So by the time that even happens, you won't even be able to get the coverage. Now, there's some insurance companies who would cover you, but they're not going to cover you for nearly as much as what you'd qualify with a different carrier before you had that critical illness. And there's actually a story I want to talk about, that a broker that I talked to a few weeks ago, and he did a life insurance policy for a friend. And at the end of the application, it asked, "Would you like to add critical illness coverage onto your life insurance policy for an extra $10 a month?"
Mhm.
She was like, "You know what? Why not? We've already done the life insurance. It's $10 a month. Let's just add it on." From there, they got the life insurance policy accepted and the critical illness policy accepted. And about a couple months later, she got cancer. She got breast cancer. And she was able to then, if she didn't press to get that $10 a month, she would be in a tough spot financially and wouldn't have got that tax-free lump sum amount of money. I don't know what that amount of money was, but it just shows that sometimes the extra $10 a month to have critical illness coverage, rather than not having it, can really be very beneficial in a tough time.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, in the world of entrepreneurs, we talk about being risk adverse, sensitive to risk. But I think entrepreneurs are displaying the opposite qualities as they move towards risk, because running your own business is super risky. There's a lot of uncertainty there. But it comes at a great reward. I mean, we don't need to get into that point. I think most entrepreneurs would agree to that. But still, I want to move away from unnecessary risk, like what you're talking about. That was $10 a month. And in this rare case, it happened 2 months later. So what did she spend? $20 a month to help
Yeah.
her move through a very difficult point in her life, and with some peace of mind, knowing that she has some type of coverage, whatever it worked out to be. But it only cost her, in this case, $20. Even if it went for 5 years, $10 a month, to know that if something big comes down the line, that's a peace of mind I'm willing to pay for. And that's why I do.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about you a little bit, Ayden. I love
Yeah.
what you do. I love why you do it. I think being an entrepreneur is one of the coolest things out there. It's really, I love the money from it, certainly more than I made as an employee, but it helps me become a better version of myself, without a doubt. It's my vehicle to hone who I am, which I think is great. But the fact that you want to help people, the fact that that was one of the first things that came out of your mouth a few minutes into here is just critical for the people that we try to work with and how we help our community. Like really that altruism to what we do, I think is more present than a lot of us would like to think. So I think that's great. But outside of business, what puts a smile on your face, man? What do you get up to for fun?
Yeah, there's a few things I get up to. I love traveling. I absolutely love it. Love different cultures, different languages, foods, different places. Just I never went to college or university or anything like that, and travel taught me so much more than I think any school could have taught me. The stories that I learned, the new people that I met. There's no other thing that I've been able to learn so much about, and just I guess expand my mind as a person as well. So that's definitely a huge part of my life. I also train mixed martial arts, so I love mixed martial arts. I do Muay Thai and Jiu Jitsu, and I think any person who may lack a little bit of discipline in your life, or maybe just wants to be able to learn how to protect themselves and their family as well, it's a whole different workout. You think when you go for a run, that's a workout. You get into some jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai, and it looks like you just walked out of a sauna when you're done. So that's definitely something I love to do. And then obviously it's golf season, so I've been swinging the clubs a little bit too lately.
Awesome, man. I'm going to ask you about travel in a second, but there is something so palpable when you talk about the reward, the multitude of rewards from a difficult physical discipline. Mine is, I have a great deal of respect for anybody in martial arts. I have a great deal of respect for the practice in it of itself. And there are many people in my sphere that really enjoy that style of physical discipline. And maybe it'll come one day for me. I love the weights. I love getting under heavy load and really eking out that last rep when the veins are about to explode in your forehead.
Yeah.
For the benefits physically, but I think it's much more for the benefits mentally, especially at this age now. What you learn from pushing your body through such difficult physical experiences, like you were talking about. I've seen the guys coming out of an hour of jujitsu. They look like they're walking out of a sauna, like they are drenched. They've left it all out on the floor, man. And it's hard stuff. But that discipline, I think, makes you a more resilient human being. And I think it really challenges the mind to make it through very difficult things. And if your mind can get you through difficult challenges, I think life is going to be a little bit more pleasant to you, because life is going to throw a lot of challenges at you. So I think a lot of people, certainly in my world, I've been a personal trainer, excuse me, for a long time. It was my background before helping businesses scale as we do now. And people would often come to me and say, what are the benefits to personal training? Like, we get to work on the body. It's all physical, more muscle, lean, and those are all part of it. But I would say the main byproduct of it is the mental reward from it. And anything physical that happens, great. But you are more mentally challenged under a squat bar or fighting an opponent than I think you are physically. For me, it's simply my mind will give out more earlier than my body. You can always go that extra mile in the run. You could do the
100%.
marathon. To get my mind and my body near each other is my goal. I don't know if I'll ever be capable of it, but it's totally changed the way I looked at physical disciplines. And I love that you do it. And honestly, some of the best people I know are into jiu-jitsu and have been for a little while. And the way they explain it, like the physical benefits are 10th on the list. The community, the practice, the discipline, the benefit to mind, the benefit to spirit. It's awesome that you do that. But I'm really curious. Everybody loves traveling, and everybody that's come on the show has said that, but nobody has said it the way that you said it. It was almost like if I could have gone to school or travel, knowing what I know about travel now, I would have explored the world. It would have been more valuable to me than a college education. And I think in many cases that's true for a lot of us. But what was it you found or where was it that you found, if there was one particular place that you found such an enrichment to your life in the ways of learning, not just, great people, great food, pleasure. That's great. When we go to Mexico on a resort, I think it's a lot more than that. Can you peel back the layers a little bit into that?
Yeah, I think one of the craziest places I went to and what I learned the most was Italy. We did a Colosseum tour the one day, and just seeing what that really was back, we say it back in the day, but back in the years, but way back when, and the gladiators and all of that, and just seeing what humans built at one point and how it was built was just crazy. It was just a whole different world, and the culture out there too, and just seeing how Europeans are very laid back, and what they'll do is, they don't really cook there, meaning they don't really cook at home. They'll go out basically every single night, maybe get a glass of wine, a pizza, and everybody's just socializing and chatting by the restaurants, and everybody's out on the streets having a laugh and having a good time. And I think it was just a big eye opener to me, just seeing, I guess, the difference from, North America to there, and compared to how laid back they are. And here, sometimes I think we just get caught up in the go rush. What's the next thing, right? So I think that was a huge difference for me, and just being able to meet all those people out in Europe, and soak up that culture.
Yeah, man, I can't say that I've done it, but I've traveled to some pretty spectacular places, although I've heard many people say that about Europeans. Italy, they take this siesta during the day, they shut down the businesses, they come back later, their lunch, their big meal is in the middle of the day, they're out there having fun together. That's just what I've been told. I don't know if that's completely accurate, but it just seems like they have this very present way of living, rather than, like you said, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? In this constant rush to get to nowhere, really. I think we get caught up in this very capitalistic world we live in the West here. It's always the next thing. It's always the next paycheck. I don't know how often, or at least it seems like a very valuable skill for me, to take a moment and just see what's around you, your people around you. And I think it seems like, from my experience, they do it well out there. But I love the community. The idea of going out for dinner into an area where there's markets everywhere and there's patios all out there, and everybody can just mingle and go from one place to the next and get to know each other. That was the way I was raised, in a way. Everybody was playing hockey on the street. You go outside on a warm day and there's just people everywhere.
Yeah.
And now in a similar subdivision, only 10 minutes down the road, you're not going to get much of that at all. You're going to get a lot more security cameras and gates. And that's another reason why we do what we do, is to show that I think there's more people out there that want to connect than it makes us believe, especially post-COVID. But I love that. I love that traveling has not only been a great pleasure for you, but also a great learning lesson, because I would agree wholeheartedly. Some of the best lessons I've learned have been going to other cultures to see how great of an existence we have here. Ups my gratitude and appreciation for what I have. But there's certain walks of life that I've learned from out there. It's like, wow, if I can bring that mentality into my world, what would it do? Like Eastern Asian philosophy and these different types of ways of thinking that maybe are not so prevalent here. I think we can only get that by exploring the world, not necessarily through books and TV. So I love that you said that, man. You're the first one out of 200 podcasts to say that traveling was not only a pleasure, but a learning lesson. I think it's fantastic for people to hear. To change up a little bit, a little less playful side, but I think probably one of the most valuable questions we have on here is, we talk about doing hard things. I often let people know that I got my rules for life tattooed onto my skin, so that I have them here with me when I'm going through the shit. I take life very seriously so that I can have a great deal of fun doing it. Kind of paradoxical, but one of the things on my arm is do hard things. I think doing hard things is very important for us to grow, just simply as that. So we asked the guests on the show about any trials and tribulations, hardships that you've been through, that when you look back at them, when you went through them, they probably sucked, right? Going through a loss, a death, a failure, a lost relationship, whatever it is, business, personal, or a combination, it probably felt pretty shitty in the moment, as going through a hard thing has the symptom of not feeling so well. Typically, the muscles burning under the load, or you sweating your ass off when you're doing jujitsu. It feels uncomfortable sometimes. So in the moment, probably did not feel so good. But when you look back in hindsight, you wouldn't remove that ingredient from the recipe that is now you, because that event led you to enjoying your life as you do now. Anything come to mind that you're willing to share with us?
Yeah, for sure. I've got a few things. When I was younger, I was about 3, 4 years old. I had some health complications when I was younger, and basically the doctor told my mom that I'd never really be able to walk properly ever, really. Now, my mom obviously took that very seriously, and throughout the years was able to take me to different therapies and different doctors, and we were able to, finally get me walking properly eventually, which was that was about like a year process. Obviously, I don't remember it because I was about 3, 4 years old, so it was quite a long time ago. Another big thing is I was, because of those kind of health complications and me kind of being held back a little bit for a couple years. I also was held back a grade in school, so that led up to until grade 6. I was basically learning with all the kids a year younger than me, and that wasn't necessarily like, I wouldn't say it was really an issue to me. And I kind of just told myself that when I was younger, like, you know what, I'm gonna try to apply myself into school to be able to get myself back into the grade that I'm supposed to be in. And then back in grade 7, I ended up doing that and getting back up to my normal grade that I was supposed to be in. And then I'd say kind of from the years that was, I guess, moving forward a little bit, the failure of my clothing brand was really tough because from that age of about 15 to 19 to about 20 years old, I was around 19, 20 when I stopped the brand. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it. I was a 15, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old waking up at 6 a.m. in the morning, getting on the computer, trying to make things happen. So when that happened, when it ended up ending with the business, I was kind of in a standstill of like, what's my next thing now? And I think in that moment, from all the years of me being an entrepreneur, I could just kind of sit there and, be like, just chill for a second, go get a job somewhere. I became a general contractor for about a year. And I sat back and let's not rush into anything. I'm not going to freak out and, oh, I got to go to university now and get it all sorted out. I knew I was an entrepreneur at heart. I just had to sit for a little bit, figure things out. And then that's when the insurance opportunity came up. And that's when I dived into the business. And then I am where I am now. And honestly, thank God for, the business that didn't work out, because I'm where I am now because of the failed business, right? So everything happens for a reason. And I think we can all learn from that. I think in the moment sometimes we kind of panic and we're like, why is this happening to me? All these different things. Why does it have to be this way? And I think things really do happen for a reason. It just takes time to recognize that.
I love it, man. It's just such a good story, and it resonates with so many people. First off, I appreciate you sharing it, especially going personal like that. I think it's super
Yeah, sure.
valuable. But it teaches a lot of things. I mean, for me, one of the little experiences that reminds me of this is we focus so much now on producing goodwill, which is, to us, the way we define that is doing a kind act without expecting something in return. So this podcast is an example of it. We do other things out there, and we pride ourselves on that by giving away as many free services as we have paid services. So if there's 8 total, 4 of them are free, 4 of them are paid, because it's brought so much value to my life, but only because I was the opposite guy for 5 years. I was in the HVAC industry, and I like to always provide some context. It's not the HVAC industry. We have many HVAC clients who run very good HVAC businesses. It's where we were. It was super shady. What I had to do to make a sale would never got me a positive review or a testimonial. Never. And I was in there for 5 years with 2 other partners. and we made loads of money. So that was our main indicator. It's like, if we're making loads of money, it must be successful. But I felt like crap all the time. And it was like 5 years was my limit. I already started saying this to myself, probably 3 years in of a 5-year journey, that I can't do this. It can't be this way. Money is not worth how bad I feel about these sales that we're doing. So it went to that extreme. It went, money is obviously not the answer, which taught me that, because I feel like garbage for this money. I don't even want to use it. I don't even want to look at it. It doesn't feel like a reward. It almost feels like a punishment in a way. And then, luckily I went through how shitty it felt to not treat people well, that the other side of the coin was still available to me. It's like, well, why don't you start treating people well and see what it feels like? What the other side feels like. So had I not gone through that 5 years of the HVAC business, which of course taught me a lot of things about business, which is great, but the main thing it taught me is that you can make money, and you can make loads of money and be a good person. It seemed like in my realm, those two things did not exist. I refused that answer. 5 years was enough for me. And now it's been, 12 years, no, 15 years in this world since then. But I needed to go through that. I needed to feel like shit almost every day, doing what we did. And it just feeling like this was not a purpose. We're doing not good things for money. So I resonate with your story about, not that you were doing that, but that your business had to fail to get you to this point. I look at that HVAC as a huge failure, not because we didn't make any money, but we were morally bankrupt as human beings. And that I learned money isn't worth. So I appreciate that story. I resonate with it a lot. All the information that you have about our City Financial Group, all that you've learned, if you could distill it down into a point or two that you think our audience needs to know, like, what is the one or two things that you would want your audience to know about our City Financial Group?
Yeah, I think just at least from a standpoint of taking care of clients, I think at the end of the day, treat people like people and make sure you treat your people well. Like when you work with someone, make sure that you're taking care of their needs and not putting yours before theirs, and really treat your clients like a family or a friend. Like really make sure that the work that you're doing for them is really benefiting them. And I think just that's what I try to do with my business. Is obviously someone's a client to me, but really, take them in as a friend as well, and actually help them, like provide that value for them. Go the extra mile if you need to. You do need to, because they're your clients. Send them your yeah, a birthday card, send them a card thanking them for the business, and making sure you're checking in with them every once in a while. How's family? How's life? Like treat them like a human being, not just a number. So I think that's really something I strive for with my business, to really make sure I treat my clients like family. If that answers the question, let me know if that didn't really answer the question. But
No, I mean,
yeah,
the question was one or two main things that you would want our audience to know
yeah,
about your business, and you nailed it. I mean, treat them, go the extra mile. Like that's what you guys are going to do. That's what you're saying. It's how I'm interpreting it. And treat them not just like a paycheck. Treat them more like family, friends. Bring them into your fold and give them that high quality kind of white glove experience. If that's what you want to tell them, that's how I interpret it, and I think it's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's what I was trying to go for.
Awesome, man.
Yeah,
I like to ask this question. I leave this out of the questionnaire because we talk about a lot of things on the show. Of course, it's all entrepreneurs on here that are talking about their businesses. We're trying to help them get a little bit of spotlight. They have great education to share, and that can increase the quality of the lives of our community, which is one of the things that we're trying to do. But we go into life, we go into purpose, we go into doing hard things, we go into health and fitness, all the things that make us humans that I find important, at least. And one of them is impact. I think that's really important for an entrepreneur to consider. If I'm going to put all this work into this thing, into me, into my business, whatever it is, into this extension of me, what kind of impact is it going to have? So talk about mentorship a lot on this show. I think behind every excellent person, there's an excellent teacher. And I had an excellent teacher in my early 20s. And she taught me that the importance of thinking about my impact as a human being, that I'm born, I will die. What will the middle equate to? So she taught me to be very intentional about what do you want your impact to be, knowing that tomorrow may not come. She was the first one to teach me that. Like, I cannot create more time. Time has to be given to me by something beyond me. I can only control what I do with that time to a certain extent. Even some of that I can't control. But the idea of saying to myself, I have these great ideas, I want to do these things, I'll wait down the line. It will happen sometime. She changed that all for me. And one of the main leading kind of compasses, directions for my life has been my impact. The actions that I take or don't take will affect other people one way or another. If I stay in my house and do nothing, that will potentially impact other people, certainly. And if I come out of my house and do lots of things, that will have an impact as well. So it's one of the things I think about the most. It's right on the top of the list of my rules of life there. We like to ask the guests on the show, because this isn't about me creating my impact. We want to know what yours is. So what do you want your impact to be, Ayden, whether that's personally, community, business, or the world? I would argue that they're maybe all one and the same.
Yeah, I think what I would like for when it comes to my impact is being able to kind of similar to what you said before, is that you can still be a good person and still strive to be very successful in business. I think we're in a world right now where so many people are, there's this way and that way, and I think it's more we just need to kind of come together and just know we're all just human beings at the end of the day, and it doesn't have to be some sort of argument about what's wrong and what's right. I feel like the impact, what I'm trying to get at is just like try to be like nicer to people. Just be a good person. We can all just kind of strive to show a little bit more love and laugh a little bit more, and not take things so seriously. Like, I think we forget sometimes that this is our only life to live. So why don't you live it, being a good person and being positive and just being the best person at the end of the day that you can be. I think too, for me, I think eventually one day I'd like to have a family, and I'd love to be able to be the dad that my kids look up to. Some kids look up to Tom Brady or Drake or whoever it is, or the Grant Cardone or who Patrick Bet David, whoever it is. And I think at the end of the day, I'd love to be the father that my kid or the person my kids look up to. So yeah, that's really my goal.
That's awesome, man. I have a very
Yeah,
similar goal. There's a very high amount of reverence for fathers out there. I think it's a very difficult job. I would argue the most, being a
for
parent,
sure.
not just being a father, but mother and father. That's a lifelong commitment to raising a human being up from nothing to something, and to strive to be an exceptional role model for that human that's going to latch onto you for everything. Man, I don't know that any business out there could be more powerful of an impact than just being a great dad. I think it's hard to be a great dad, and I look at it a very similar way to you. I love it, man. I love it. I love what you're saying. I love what you're doing out there. What is the best way for our audience to connect with you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is at Our City Financial Group. You can be able to find out on Instagram, Facebook, and then my website as well is www.ourcityfinancialgroup.ca. You can be able to reach out there if you need any assistance with anything, or if you just want to, shoot me a text or email, feel free to. My phone number is 705-331-0926. So if maybe you have some questions about life insurance or just whatever it is, you have some questions about something, feel free to reach out to me. So, yeah, you can be able to reach out to me on any of those avenues, and yeah.
Beautiful, man. Well, Ayden, it was a pleasure. Jack gave us a good recommendation today, and I will make sure to thank him. But you told us a lot, man. You taught us a lot. You let us into your life. I don't think I think there's a lot more people that wouldn't do that than would. So I appreciate you being one of the people that would, because it gives us an opportunity to get better and to elevate our community in some way, which is why we do this. And it wouldn't be possible without people like yourself. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. And it was just easy to talk to you, man. It was just a great conversation.
I appreciate it, Jeff. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Look forward to many more conversations. Until then, enjoy the rest of the day, pal.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.